So I know it is a little early, just by a few minutes, maybe two. So I wanted to make sure that for those of you that are there, that you can start coming in. Looking forward to talking to you, and I'm so excited. This is the happy webinar. Those that were selected, and you know what's ahead for you. Very, very happy. In fact, I was actually surprised as to how many were selected out of those that we filed this time around compared to last year. Although at the end of the day, it balanced out, but it was good. We felt better this year than last year. So I see you all coming in gradually. I'm going to get it started right at 2. Okay, it is 2 and I can see the numbers coming up. So welcome everybody to the H-1B Cap 2023, and those that were selected. I am really happy that you're all here, and I'm very happy that you were selected. That's where we have the claps and the cheer. Very, like I said, very happy that you're here. So I've got quite a few questions as you registered, and I very much appreciate that because it helps me to determine who's here and answer some of those questions as we go through the webinar. I have a question from an attendee, but I'm going to address those. I have actually 2 team members, Ellen and Danny, that are on the chat. So that is what I'm going to be using because I cannot concentrate in too many things at once. So I know some people use the Q&A, other people use the chat, and I can only look one place. So I will be using the chat if you have questions. But again, I'm going to focus on the webinar for now and the questions that I received. So 201, so I'm going to go next. Okay, so I got actually questions about selection and timelines. That is certainly one of the things that we're going to talk about. The team members' responsibility. I see all the work that we do in immigration as teamwork. Everyone has a role in the process. We have a role, the foreign national has a role, the employer has a role, and together we make this beautiful chair with 3 legs that gets approved and runs smoothly or walks smoothly or whatever it is. I am going to talk about a project sample, which is more directly to the foreign nationals, but obviously the project is something that they're going to be doing for the employer. So employers do play a little bit of a role in this. Talk about RFEs, which is requests for evidence, which we have seen a significant increase over the last few years. And we tried, as we prepared this filings with your help, to account for potential RFE issues so we don't get them. Last year, I was like beyond happy that all of our H-1Bs that were filed for the H-1B Cap were approved before October 1st and without our fees. And that was big for us. And not, I mean, obviously we do a good work, but there's so many factors that go into that. But again, I want to address those issues so we can prevent our fees. And then ongoing work authorization. Many of you are going to be going through what is called a cap gap. I got some questions about cap gaps, so I am going to be talking about that and what the transition, how the transition looks like and all of that. And of course, no matter how many times I talk about travel, I get questions about travel, so that will be covered too. And many of you on the call are, clients that work with our team. And I always say there is no way that I can do what I do without these ladies that help you and help me to do the job that we do. So thank you, Tyra, Ellen, and Alice, for everything that you do for me and for those clients that we serve. Okay, timeline. For many of you, as you know from working on the registration process, we do a fair amount of proactive work so that once you are selected, and that's kind of what went into that strategy process, once you are selected, we already have the foundational work to continue to move forward because the timeline is pretty short, even though it looks longer here. But we have 90 days to file, and we met it last year. Of course, we're going to meet it this year, but and we do because of, again, the proactive work that we have done for many of you foreign nationals. We have already collected your degrees, your transcripts, and all kinds of things that we would have been asking you for right now. So right now, the work that is being done is going through the LCA preparation and filing. In fact, Tyra already filed one. And the LCA, for those of you that do not know what it is, labor condition application, very specific to H-1B visas. And without the LCA, we cannot file the petition. So that's why, for in many cases, we have to start there. And the LCA already contains a significant amount of information about the job, the location of the job. So all of that needs to be done. And the reason Tyra already filed an LCA is because the person that we filed the LCA for is one of those that is going to benefit from the cap gap. And we needed to get that LCA filed and that petition prepared and out the door before the employment authorization runs out for that foreign national. So all of you, and hear this, all of you are important to us. We are going to get you all filed before the deadline. But as you probably or hopefully realize, there's some of you that we need to file first. And there's some of you that thankfully you are not in, you have time, and we will get you filed within that time. But we are going to prioritize, and we have to, the ones that, have cap gap, and we need to get their cases filed first, okay? And that's kind of where the LCA comes in. Document gathering, we have done a fair amount of that already. We haven't gathered as much documents from new clients, new employers, and those of you that are, employers or that are going to be working through the H-1B process for us or with us for the first time, know that we will be reaching out to you and getting some of the documents that we need to prepare the filings for the clients that are established clients with us. We already probably have a lot of what we need. So you will be exempt from that request. And we may need some updated things, but not as much as the newer clients. Okay, and so while we file the LCA, gather documents, prepare forms, the LCA is being certified by the Department of Labor. Once we get that back in, then we're ready to finalize the H-1B filing, and then off it goes to USCIS with lots of sparkles and good wishes. So again, kind of talked about the LCA, and I think Ellen or Danny added a little bit more on the chat. So very specific to the job title, the wage, the location of employment. It takes 7 to 10 days to get certified. We cannot file the petition without this. So this is what we begin. And again, the 90-day timeline, it kind of is set out for us. Okay, so for the petitioner, for those of you that have not sent us, somebody, how do we know if our LCA is a priority or not? Well, like I just said, whether, maybe I'm answered. So if you're in the cap gap situation, which I'm going to talk about, we will be working with you on your LCA first. If you're not in the cap gap, meaning that you are authorized to work right now because of a STEM or because whatever else you have as employment authorization, if you're work authorized past October 1st, we are not going to be working on your LCAs over the next week or so or more. Okay, for the employers that are on the line or those that are going to be getting this webinar later on, job description and salary as of October 1st. That's very important. Many of the positions that we're handling here are entry-level positions, meaning level 1, wage 1 level. And sometimes the increase in pay that happens during the summer or because of an evaluation or whatever makes a big difference. So when we're talking to you about what is the salary that you are offering the foreign national under the H-1B status, ideally we're talking about the salary as of October 1st. For employers, we like to make your petitions as vivid as we can to represent the contributions that you are all making to our beautiful country. So brochures, marketing materials, requests for proposals are all beautiful additions to the H-1B. Can it be filed without them? Yes, but will it get the same attention and diligent care and love? No. And we want your petitions to get as much love as possible. So we want them to, this materials are already available quite often. So we will be requesting some of those. And then some of the basic, the year the company was established, the number of employees. There is a reason for all of these things that we will be requesting from you. Worksite locations, addresses is important because of, this virtual world that we all have in. And for employers, also very important, who's going to be the person signing the immigration forms. Quite often we may be directly working with the HR generalist, but the person that is actually signing the immigration documents may be, the HR VP or the HR director or whatever, or it may be the HR generalist, whoever. We're going to need that. And if the position is one that requires a license, for example, many architects have a master's degree in architecture, but they're not architects because they're not licensed as an architect. Engineers, kind of same. We are going to need the supervisor's license to include in the file. Now for nationals, because again, we have done a fair amount of proactive work, and thank you for all of you. I mean, you were all phenomenal from the beginning. Sending us things to Danny, to Alan, to Tyra. So we are in good shape for most of you in terms of all of the things that are here. We are going to need some updates. One of the things that the RFPs, again, request for additional evidence, come up is, and I've highlighted or italicized those, is whether you have been maintaining, whether you're in status or maintaining status through September 30th, because that's when your H-1B will come into effect October 1st. So between now and October 1st, we have to show to the USCIS that you are maintaining status in order for that petition to be approved. And ways of doing that is one, again, for those in cap gap, there's a way of doing that. For those of you that are working on OPT or working under your EAD, it's going to be pay statements close to the filing date. Some of you are on a STEM OPT and you have a training program that that you've signed and developed with your employer, that I-983 STEM. We haven't had an issue with an RFE requesting the STEM training compliance, but it's something for you foreign nationals to just be aware of and make sure that before we file that STEM program or training that you enter into with your employers is up to date. And that's about it, what I have here for the project sample. I think that's the next slide that I'm going to talk. Yeah, okay. So project sample. The reason we're doing this is because many of the RFEs are targeting the specialty occupation. So in order for you to get an H-1B visa, you have to prove to USCIS that you're working in a specialty occupation. I kind of analogize a specialty occupation with a professional position, and that you have received a specialized knowledge that allows you to perform the duties of that position. One of the ways of doing this is basically saying, okay, my job as a, interior designer, architect, civil engineer, computer scientist, whatever it is. My job, and I'm just going to pick an architect because it's just kind of easy. Everybody can see an architect designing a building. And in order for me to design that building, I have used these courses from my architect degree that allow me to perform the duties of the position. So when we talk about a project, and I have a video that I've done for you, very specific on this, just about project samples, you're going to be getting a link to that as part of participating in this webinar, so that you're going to start understanding what it's all about. I think it's like 10-15 minute video. But basically what we're going to ask you to do is pick a sample of a project. If you are working for the employer right now, it would pick something that you're working on. And I like for you to pick something that is exciting, if you can. Some of you that are, that you work with a lot of just graphics and things, but I don't have pictures. I'm like, just send me something of what it would look like. So anyway, we'll work with you, but you'll know that we like pictures because pictures tell a story, and typically for you guys, it tells a beautiful story, and I want USCIS to be able to see that. So we're going to take a sample project, and you're going to take your courses that you've taken. We're going to take the job description, and the job description is going to be a little different than the job description that maybe the employer gives us, because we also have to accommodate that, massage that to what USCIS is looking for. And then we'll help you put all this three together: the project sample, the job description, and the training that you receive to show USCIS that you have the specialized knowledge to perform the duties of the position. Okay. Hopefully it sounds complicated, but it really is not that bad. Project sample has 4 pieces to it: the background of the project, the duties, their job duties with a little expansion on them as to how they apply to the project, your degree, your courses, and pictures. That's it. Again, so this is kind of a snapshot, kind of a very summary of what you're going to see when you get the video, and all goes to showing specialty occupation. Processing. All right. There is going to be most likely an option of filing the H-1B petition, regular processing, or premium processing. Last year, we did not file any of our H-1Bs, the lottery H-1Bs, as premium. They were all filed regular. They all got approved. And within, like I said, before October 1st. Every year is a different year, as we learn. And sometimes USCIS takes the premium processing away altogether. No premium processing until sometime later. We haven't heard anything about premium processing being taken away or delay or whatever this year. So it's probably going to be there and available. But I don't want you all to rush to think, oh my God, let's pay the $2,500 to get our case process. because sometimes, unfortunately, USCIS gets really busy and they use the premium processing, their pressure to have to provide an adjudication, a response, whether approved, denied, or fee, to a petition within 15 days if you use premium process. And sometimes because of that pressure, they just issue a request for additional evidence, which is totally unjust, and they shouldn't be allowed to do it, but they do. So don't rush into thinking that you have to file premium, or you should file premium. We typically use it strategically. If your case has not been adjudicated and we're getting into August for some reason, we definitely want you to stay work authorized, and the only way to get there is by premium processing your case. Then that's something that we're going to recommend. But so just a little chat about premium, because I know that that question comes up all the time. If you, now that what premium does is, if you do pay the premium, and the petition is approved, it gives you the peace of mind that, okay, I'm done, I don't have to think about this anymore, it's been approved. So there's certainly a benefit, but there's also negative to going premium. Okay, so here is a little bit of the cap gap. So what happens is USCIS, so after we file, so the LCA has been certified, all the forms have been signed and reviewed, the project's been completed, all the other documentation about the specialized knowledge, about your maintenance of a status, about your employer, how amazing they are, and everything is put together, we file. After filing with USCIS, one of the things that happens, particularly this time when they're going to be getting a lot of filings, USCIS will issue a receipt notice that is going to come to us somewhere between 5 and 20 days. Once that receipt notice is issued, if your case is going to be under the cap gap, and I'm going to explain that more, that receipt notice basically seals your cap gap and says, from now until September 30th, you are authorized to work because we file your petition while you were authorized to work as a change of a status, and it got receipted by USCIS before your work authorization expired. So now we're going to grant you basically an automatic extension of your ability to work through September 30th. Again, I'll go into cap gap in more detail, but this is the receipt notice is a component of that process. And then whether it's cap gap or not, after the receipt notice is issued, your case is placed on a queue for processing. And we again continue to monitor, provide updates as the process is going. So I'm looking at my questions here. What is the timeline of filing? I talked about, and these are the questions that you all sent me. What is the timeline for filing? What is the first next step after being selected? We cover that. Somebody asked about, are there any limitations on the number of hours for working on H-1B? And there is not. The petition is going to be filed most likely for all of you. Very few times I file a petition for H-1B as part-time, but it's possible. For most of you, it's going to be a full-time position. What's next? Well, we cover what's next, general steps, we cover about that. Premium processing. So one of the questions is premium process necessary. So talked about that. Now, the next question about here, what is my plan of action doing cap gap? So here we go. So cap gap extension, this is how it works. It provides you with the ability to continue to work after your EAD expires. If the H-1B petition was received, and that's where that receipt notice comes in place. If your petition was received by USCIS before the current EAD expire and your petition request was file as a change of a status, not consular processing, starting October 1st, okay? So if your OPT expires between April 1st and June 30th, and for example, the one that we just talked about, and I don't remember when that person's OPT expired, but let's say it was, April 30th, they have an employment authorization document right now that expires after April 30th or on April 30th. They're not authorized to work after that unless we're able to file their H-1B petition with everything, including the LCA and everything else, and it's received by USCIS before April 30th, and USCIS issues the receipt notice before April 30th, and it's requesting a change of status, not consular processing. And there's a reason for that later on. I don't think I'm going to address that in this presentation because it's very case specific. But that is the situation where Cap will come into place, and it is wonderful. I remember the days when I started practicing that Cap did not exist. And people in this situation that their EAD expired April 30th, they actually had to leave the country and wait abroad and then re-enter when the H-1B visa became valid, which would have been October 1st. So although things are horrendous, the pendulum swings, and there have been horrendous things that happened in the past too. So Cap is a gift. Now, what happens if your H-1B is pending? So say USCIS did not process your H-1B and is pending beyond September 30th, because again, the H-1B kicks in October 1st. At that time, your work authorization will end, and you would be able to stay in the United States. Actually, I have here 60 days grace period, but really it's while it's pending. And what we do in those situations, as I think I said before, this is one of those what I would recommend premium processing. If we get towards August and there is no movement on that petition, we need to consider premium processing to make sure that you are authorized to work. Okay, and here's another example of how Cap works. Again, just to make it very visual, April 1st, that USCIS has actually started accepting petitions, and I know some employers or that have paid to have, that they're filing right now, but not many. I think most employers, most immigration attorneys follow the process that we're following right now. So now that we know who's selected, we will start filing the LCAs again. If your employment authorization document ends somewhere in there and we file and the case is accepted, you basically have this employment authorization extension all the way through September 30th. I'm trying to make sure. So that is, hopefully that answers the question of what is my plan of action during your Cap. We have highlighted the cases that we have, on our list of H-1B selections. We have those of you that are on the Cap in red. And like I said, we're already working with some of you. Okay, let's see what's next. Okay. So here are some of the requests for additional evidence issues that we see and that we try to prevent proactively, because requests for additional evidence are, I want to say, very disruptive, a diplomatic way of saying it. They consume a lot of time from you all, your employers, your foreign nationals, and for us. And it's even more disruptive when we have submitted everything that USCIS needs to have to adjudicate your petition, and they use, they just send a request for additional evidence just because they can. And then you're kind of going, what else can I do? So again, proactively, we try to address those issues, and the main issues that potentially could come up on the cases that we file are the specialty occupation and the maintenance of the status of the foreign national. And that's why I highlighted or italicized those two, because we are very good at establishing the employer-employee relationship. Most of the foreign nationals, actually, I would say all of the foreign nationals that we work with, or all of the employers that we work with, are hiring foreign nationals directly. They're not subcontracting, which is awesome. And so that every so often we get an RFE on employer-employee relationship, and I'm like, seriously, because it's so clear that this is like well covered. And the beneficiaries qualifications, again, all of you are qualified for an H-1B visa based on the education that you have. So the maintenance of status and the specialty occupation is the issues that we see, and we address those. No, we do with the project sample that goes to the specialty occupation, and the maintenance of the status through the copies of all the I-20s, the copy of the employment authorization document, the copies of the pay stubs. All of that stuff goes to the maintenance of status potential RFE. Okay, I'm looking through the questions, and I'm looking through here. Okay, at the end of the day, this is what I'm looking forward for all of you. This is an approval notice from last year. This is what it's going to look like. Well, it's a whole page. We've kind of divided it here, but it is beautiful to receive. I said to my team actually yesterday, it was like we all have ups and downs, and you should see when we get an approval, it's a little party here. Because it's a lot of work. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of uncertainties. The uncertainties are the stress that you have. You pass it on to us, and I mean, we do everything that we can to try to keep the process smooth. But we understand that it's very stressful. So every time we get an approval of anything, even the receipt notices we're happy about. So for all of you, I look forward to getting this approval notices. Our team, employers, everybody. Now, when we get the approval notices, at the bottom of the approval notice, most likely if we file for a change of status, there is going to be a detachable I-94 from USCIS, and that's the bottom there. And that basically is what your employer is going to use, or the employers are going to use to verify your status. So I'm going to cover the I-9 form, because that's the next thing that is going to happen for employers. You have been on F1 status all along. Now you have an employment authorization document that may have expired, and you're going into the cap gap, and employers need to verify the I-9 and update it based on the cap gap. So I'm going to cover that. And then when the H-1B is actually approved and the foreign national transfers to the H-1B status, there has to be another update to the I-9 to show that the H-1B was approved. Now, something else that we do as a courtesy to you foreign nationals is that when we get this approval notices, you don't get one. The USCIS issues 2 approval notices, originals. One goes to the employers, and that's their copy for them, because the H-1B really belongs to the employer. They are the ones that are petitioning for you. There is no self-petitioning for H-1Bs. It's an employment-based work visa. So they receive an original notice of approval, and that's for them. And we, as the attorney of record, receive our notice of approval. We can make a good copy of it and put in your file, and we give you the original. And please make sure that you put it in a safe place. I get emails every so often, not often. Oh my God, removed. I don't know when my H-1B approval notice is. I have to go to the consulate and they want an approval. Don't come to us because it is almost impossible. This is not on the high priority list for USCIS to issue a new approval notices because you lost it. So I'm letting you know right now, we're giving you ours, our original. That doesn't belong to you, but we trust that you're going to take care of it. So you will get it, because when you cancel a process, even though the consulate should not ask you for your H-1B approval notice original because you don't get one, but they do, because they have the right to ask you for the original. And I want you to be in a good place. I want you to have it if they were to request it, okay? Okay, let me go to, okay, for HRs. So some of this I've already touched on. I-9 updates, you're going to have quite a few coming up your way. First, for those that are going to be going on the cap and the EAD expires, and then when they get an H-1B, the update to the I-9. I already mentioned the LCA wage as of October 1st. Now this, for some of you that have not handled H-1Bs before, there's tax implications with this. Actually, for nationals, for you, this is good to know also, because you're going to start seeing your paycheck as an H-1B worker, and you're going to go, what? Why are they taking Medicare out of my paycheck when they didn't do it before? Under F1, there is an exemption for F1 students up to a certain stage or number of years that you're exempt from FICA. But when you become an H-1B worker, the employers are required to start taking FICA out of your pay statements. So know that that's going to happen. And again, so I-9 updates and I-9 re-verification. Okay, this is what a cap gap I-9 will look like. So typically you would have already done your list A employment authorization document. That in this particular case, the employment authorization document for this foreign national expired in October, and not in October, in August, and they were selected for the lottery. So, and they were filed timely, so we got a receipt notice. So the I-9 is updated by just saying cap gap extension through September 30th, and you can see the attached I-20, which provides the CP, that the person was in status. And I will also say to you to attach the receipt notice when we get the receipt that the person, the petition was approved, okay? And then when the person obtains the H-1B status, then if you're doing a new I-9, and by the way, for some of you, there may be a new I-9 by October. So we may be kind of talking about all this again, but typically it's the passport of the foreign national. And if you remember that detachable I-94 that I mentioned at the beginning, with the approval notice, those are the two documents that you would potentially use: the passport and the detachable I-94, or if the person consular process, the CDP I-94. I'm covering a lot, and this is for those of you that are on the cap gap. This is kind of the what you would do to re-verify someone on the cap gap. Okay, travel. Always a question. If you were on my prior presentation, we talked about this. And even if you were, this is a reminder. I always get this question. So let me see if I can move myself somewhere. Okay. If we file an H-1B for you, obviously you're here, you're selected on the lottery. We file, and the petition, the H-1B is standing with change of status. And ideally you would change status October 1st when that H-1B becomes active. You're not traveling. You're not traveling between now and then. So So remember when I said before, now we have this gap, and it's a wonderful thing. So you have to take the good and the bad. And I know for some of you, this is traumatic, like you're not going to be able to travel. On a personal experience, I have to tell you, I went from Cuba. I was born in Cuba to Canada. In Canada, I was an asylee. I requested asylum, and I had no status until my asylum was approved for 4 or 5 years. And I couldn't go anywhere because if I did, I would have lost everything. So we sat, I didn't see family that I had in the United States and all of that. So I know I missed many birthdays, many weddings, many other things, but it's part of life. So if you're in this situation, just know, I'm sorry. At least for you guys, it may be just a few months. For me, it was years. And looking back, I would not have done it any different. So it was so important for me, and I know that this is important for you. So again, while your H-1B petition is pending approval, and even if it is approved, so that's the next here. So let's say we file, and hey, by August 1st, your H-1B now is approved. You cannot travel, but because if you travel, you're not going to be able to enter the United States again until October 1st, because that's when your H-1B becomes active. And you also are no longer in F1 status, which is the stamp that you have in your passport. Now you've become an H-1B worker. So you would have to go to the consulate and most likely not be able to use the Dropbox appointment. You're going to have to go through an interview and get a new H-1B visa issued in your passport. So that's why we don't recommend travel after October 1st. After your H-1B visa has been approved and your change of status has been approved, then yes, you can travel. And that's what the and is. Again, now you have an F1 visa in your passport. You will need a new H-1B to come back to the United States. So yeah, being a foreign national and traveling is not a paradise. Once you're in status in H-1B and you do travel abroad and you get your new H-1B visa stamp in your passport, then you're free to travel. A consideration with all of this is your passport expiration. So I know for all of you, you looked at your passport when we registered you for the lottery because we needed your passport number. And that is something that all of you need to keep track of, because when you come back to the United States, say you did get a new H-1B visa in your passport, you got your visa approved here, USCIS approved it. October, you changed status and now you're an H-1B worker. And now you decided that you want to go home for the holidays in whatever, November, December. But your passport is expiring 6 months later. What is going to happen is when you come back, and this is really advanced, so just put it somewhere in your brain that you do have to keep track of your passport. Because when you come back into the United States, the consulate may not issue a visa beyond your, the validity of your passport. So your visa will be cut short. And CBP may not allow you to stay in the United States also beyond your visa. So there's a lot going on when you travel. And quite often, we do what we call mini consultations, where we for a fee, minimal fee, considering the advantage that you get through all of this, we kind of guide you through the potential issues that you may have. So again, keep that in mind. Let's see what I have after this. Okay. Some general considerations. Know that USCIS, 85,000, we still don't know how many USCIS H-1Bs they receive, most likely over 300,000 registrations. They have selected now 85,000 plus because they typically select more than the 85,000 for various reasons. And within the next 2 months, 3 months, 90 days, USCIS is going to be receiving a tremendous volume of H-1B petitions, 85,000 of them. It is chaotic. Things get lost, things get misplaced. It's chaotic. So hang in there with us. We get receipt notices back that may not have the right, the right spelling of your name, or who knows. Take a deep breath. It's okay. Flexibility is key, okay? The receipt eventually they get fixed, whatever. They're not gonna, don't panic, oh my God, it is a low priority in their to-do list to fix an error that they actually made, particularly if it's a spelling error or something like that. So just don't panic. It's flexibility, like I said, is key through this whole process. If you have dependents, and I think that was one of the questions that I got. Well, let me see. I have an H-4 visa and an EAD to be applied for my wife. Okay. How does it work? Actually, this one is a little bit more complicated that I won't answer here. But I do want to say that if you have dependents, say that they're on F2 status, or obviously they're going to lose that F2 status when you become an H-1B worker. So your dependents need to file for a change of a status, just like you will. And those are in Form I-539, I think, or there's so many forms. I think it is I-539 or I-589, whatever. But they're going to have to file a change of status to H-4 with you. Ideally, they should be filed concurrently together. So again, the stuff doesn't get lost. Just imagine if your office or your desk or whatever, all of a sudden gets 85,000 pieces of documents, and how you shuffle through all of that. So just keep, be aware that if you have a spouse, children, that they should change status with you. This, and again, I'm not sure, I don't know who sent this question, but I do get the questions about the H-4s and EADs, employment authorization documents. And in fact, I get some questions that say, oh, well, okay, I'm changing to H-1B status, and, so that my wife can transfer to my wife or my spouse, it could be the husband, can get H-4 and an employment authorization document. I'm like, ooh, employment authorization documents for H-4 is not a everybody gets it situation. It's very specific to those H-1B workers that have been able to file an I-140, an immigrant petition, and that's way down the line. They're in line to get their green card, and because of the huge processing delays, about 2 or 3 years ago, I want to say, USCIS was kind and allowed the spouses of those H-1B workers that have been waiting for many, many, many years to work or to file for an adjustment of status, to file for an employment authorization document with that H-4. But it's a limited amount of people. So, there is, again, it's a very, very limited number of H-4s that can file for an employment authorization document. And even then, when they're able to file, the processing times are huge. So various considerations there. H-1B classification takes effect October 1st, not before. And the reason I put this here is because, again, some of you may think, oh, okay, great. USCIS approved my petition August 15th. Now I'm in H-1B status. Now I can leave and I can travel. No. That H-1B does not become effective until October 1st. So all the way until October 1st, you're in F1 or whatever status you had before the H-1B becomes available. The other question that I get a lot, should I bother to apply for my STEM OPT? And my answer, big yes. If you are able to apply for STEM OPT, and there is only some of you that will be able to apply, but if you do have that privilege, please take advantage of it. I know it requires filing for an employment authorization document. I know it requires creating this training program. I know it requires going to the DSO and, you know, making the application. Believe me, if for some crazy reason, something happens and USCIS does not process things smoothly as they do, and you're stuck with not being able to work beyond October 1st, but you took advantage of your STEM OPT and filed for it, that will save you and will save your employer, because then you can take advantage of the STEM OPT and continue to work until that H-1B gets approved. So it's a huge benefit. There's very few of them in immigration. Take them when they exist, okay? Let's see what's here. Okay, as a follow-up to this webinar, you are going to get links to the project summary video that I talked about. We also have a lot of resources in our website. So we took the time to create a roadmap for you, because sometimes it's like, where should I look? So you are going to get a document, I think it's a page, that has links to various resources, all relating to H-1B, that will be helpful for you. So if you have questions after this, which you probably will, I mean, there's so much. I can only cover so much and also make it interesting when just talking to the screen here. And thank you. I know that you have been putting things on the chat, and Danny, Ellen, particularly, I think, has been responding to those. So thank you so much, because I've been able to concentrate on your questions on the screen. The resources are there for you. They will probably answer, at least clarify, some of the stuff that you just heard from me. And I love our infographic. I don't know if some of you may have seen it, some not, but we created an infographic also to, you know, you've been selected, how's the process, what's the process like? It's kind of cool. It's fun to look at, and, you know, it takes you away from this very structured thing and brings some fun into the process. And I have reviewed this so many times. Danny, look at the screen. Okay, this text is supposed to say that you will be receiving a link to a survey from Danny. Please take the time to fill that out. It's very quick. It just let us know whether, you know, this was helpful. You know, other things that we can do for you. It's by you telling us what we can do to help you, that we can best help you. I mean, if I'm going to spend the time doing something, I want to spend it in the most helpful way for you. So there is the survey link. Thank you, Danny. Please, please, please take the time to do that now while I have your attention. Click on it, go through it, tell us what you think. Also what, so I'm going to kind of review some of the few questions that I have left here while you fill out your survey. And also you can put on the chat, it's kind of fun to kind of say, or see your thank you, okay, this was good, this was bad, or whatever. You can put those on the chat. So one of the questions that I had here, what documents are required for the cap gap? And frankly, there's not that much more documents or different documents that we're going to need from you. With the cap gap, it's primarily a timing issue. It's a matter of getting your LCA file certified and your package ready to go with everything that it needs. So it's more of a timing issue than a documentation issue. Except that, you know, again, you're going to be having to do this project summary that we just talked about. That's going to take some time. Please, so this is something else, and I do say that in the video when you watch it about the project summary. Do not get creative with the project summary. I am saving you time. We'll give you an outline, follow it, okay? The project summary is a piece of a bigger filing. The petition is not going to get approved just on the project summary. That is a component. Some of you are very good at following directions and you just, okay, 4 pages max, one project, And some of you are like, I've gotten projects that are like 10 pages long, 3 projects. Oh my gosh, I know you don't have that much time. And if you do, I want you to use it on something more, something that makes you happy. And maybe the project makes you happy, but find something else. So that's for that one. Nothing specific at this time. I think I have covered everything that I have here from the questions. Again, thank you for sending this. I hope that I have answered, the questions that you sent us, and that this has been helpful to you. I and our team, all of us, really appreciate the fact that you're taking the time to be here and to help us help you. As I said from the beginning, this is teamwork, and teamwork makes dreams work. And I know that's what is going to happen for all of you. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Look forward to those resources, email, and complete the survey. And we'll be talking to you all soon. Thank you. Bye, everybody.